Hello, everybody, and welcome to Weird World. And I'm Jeff,
And I'm Beth.
and we're here to give you the weirdest news that is on the internet, and some most interesting news too. All right, how about this one? How about a story we got for you about why men won't marry you? How about that?
How about that?
This is written by a woman trying to tell us why men aren't gonna marry you.
Okay.
Let's find out how interesting, how good this is gonna be.
Right.
Let's see if you learned something. Me too.
Me
I
too.
plan on learning something. Of course, being exactly what you're referring to. It'd be interesting. Let's find out. All right. Where have all the husbands gone? That's a question Peter Lloyd tackles in a series in London's Daily Mail about Britain's marriage rate. So this is for Britain, which is at its lowest level since 1895. The state of matrimony is not just ailing, it's dying out faster than a mobile phone battery. For an army of women, and a whole army, Mr. Right is simply not there, no matter how hard they look for him. Something about there was a time when wives respected their husbands. There was a time when wives took care of their husbands as they expected their husbands to take care of them. Things are no better this side of the Atlantic, according to Pew Research Center. The share of American adults who've never been married is at a historical high as well. And men are more likely than women to have never made it down the aisle. 23% versus 17% in 2012. Okay. What gives? Why are men here and abroad avoiding the altar in spades? One, because they can. Men used to marry to have sex and have a family. They married for love too, but they had to marry the girl before taking her to bed, or at least work really hard on it to wear her down. These days, those days are gone. When more women make themselves sexually available, the pool of marriageable men diminishes. In a world where women do not say no, the man is never forced to settle down and make serious choices, which is true. Scoff if you wish. Call me fuddy duddy. I think who wrote this? Do women ever use the term fuddy duddy for themselves, or is it because this sounds more of a guy?
I don't know, but to me, like the phrase "fuddy duddy" kind of went,
That went out in a long time ago too.
right. It's kind of like went out like when Hubba Hubba was around back in the day.
Hubba hubba. That was a good one. I like that one. But how is the new plan working out? Because there's nothing in it for them. What exactly does marriage offer men today? Men know there's a good chance they'll lose their friends, their respect, their space, their sex life, their money, and if all goes wrong, their family. Says Helen Smith, PhD, author of Men on Strike. So now we're also getting something from somewhere else. They don't want to enter into a legal contract with someone who could effectively take half their stuff, pretty much is, their savings, pension, and property, when the honeymoon period is over. Men aren't wimping out by staying unmarried or being committed phobes. They're being smart. Unlike women, men lose all power after they say I do. That's true. Their masculinity dies too. But, okay, it's a story. All right. What's left of it, that is, in a span of just a few decades, America has demoted men from respected providers and protectors of the family to superfluous buffoons. Today's sitcoms and commercials routinely paint a portrait of the idiot husband whose wife is smarter and more capable than he. That's true.
Yeah.
That, I don't even know of one show until it actually has a decent dad or like really good, strong male role models.
Right.
Do you know of any?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head.
I can't think of any. There was a time when wives took care of their husbands as they expected their husband to take care of them, or perhaps therein lies the rub. If women no longer expect or even want men to take care of them, since women can do everything a man can do and better, thank you very much, feminism, is what they're saying. That's being a quote. A quote from who, though? Perhaps the flip side is an assumption that women don't need to take care of husbands either. And if no one's taking care of anyone, why marry?
I can see that aspect, like...
Yeah, I can definitely see the argument in that, that's for sure. For women, the reason is obvious. Kids. No, not so much
Yeah.
It used to be kids because there's you weren't having sex until you were married.
Right.
Eventually, most women decide they want children. That's true. No matter how long they put it off to focus on their careers. Although nowadays, however, too many women are past their prime and can't have any kids. So they often nab the best guy they can find, usually the one whom they're currently sleeping with, and convince him, I love you more than anything. Let's get married. If the man refuses, we call him, as Smith notes, a committed phobe.
Commitment phobe, yeah.
Not necessarily, but okay. This is this story, but is that fair? Perhaps these men know all too well that women initiate the vast majority of divorces. Yeah, right now it's damn near 80% are filed by the wives.
Yeah.
90% if the woman has a degree. Yeah, ain't that a kick in the crotch? Depending on demographics. And when they do, they take the kids with them and hang the hubby out to dry with the help of a court system that heavily is stacked in their favor, the female's favor.
Yeah.
In the past, mom got the kids because she was home with them during the thankless, unpaid, mountainous work associated with that role. But if you go back even further than that, because they're stuck in this one part, men were the ones who kept the kids, not the women.
Oh, really?
Yes. You go back and it's not that far away. If a woman left, she left on her own. She didn't take the kids. They stayed with the father. They were his kids.
Mm-hmm.
So then, of course, if she wanted to leave, be my guest, but you're going off on your own. And then it got switched over where moms were the ones taking the kids. And no, it really hasn't changed much even till today.
Right.
Even when they really shouldn't.
Right.
There are quite a few women I know personally that should not be moms.
Yeah, I've heard horror stories myself.
Or at least I should say, giving birth is one thing, but they shouldn't be the ones raising the kids.
Yeah.
No freaking way. There are too many women I know that are like way unfit for that. Only the father should be the ones raising the kids.
Right.
And that's just that's because I know certain women. And it's like, they should not be raising children. Even they admit they shouldn't be raising children. Of course, now 2 of them, and so that eventually when they had the kids, guess who eventually after one I think it was 2 years, and the other one I think it was 6 months. They were given the kids, and 6 months later, a guy I happen to know, oopsie, all of a sudden he was, because he wasn't allowed to see him with this, that, whatever, blah, blah, blah. It was a stupid, normal crap. and he was fighting to see his kids and everything else, or kid. And then all of a sudden one day, whenever she came on by, and then there's, allowed him to see him, and literally never came back.
Wow, just dropped off the kids, said deuces, and...
Yep, that was it.
Wow.
And then all of a sudden, he did the smart thing, because a few of us made him, call the cops, had a police report done, cops were there, he reported it as an abandonment, did all the right things.
Right.
So that, he wouldn't have any issues. Mm-hmm. Because the court system has said that, he wasn't going to have them. And now all of a sudden, there's no mom.
Right.
So, he didn't want stupid crap. And it's like, well, yeah, better report that, make sure the cops are there, understand. They're not going to take him away from you because they can't.
Right.
But, just as long as there's, have, stupid crap in the house. Come on.
Right.
But yeah, he had a big time because there's all of a sudden he had a huge change in his life. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden he's taking care of his yes, right, he has a son. And all of a sudden he's raising his son. Just like that. No warning, no nothing. Mm-hmm. And because he had an apartment or whatever, but eventually so that he just couldn't do it. So he had to move. He had to move back in with his parents, and then with them, and so that he was able to then properly take care of the kid.
Right.
Because he wasn't prepped for any of this crap.
Right.
And then there's the other one. He had two kids, one a son and a daughter, and within 2 years. She allowed him finally to be able to see the kids. And then 6 months after, more and more, he started getting more and more of the kids. Because, she wanted to go out partying. Mm-hmm. I guess she did not like being a mom because she wanted to party. Well, how can you party when you have kids? You have responsibilities.
Right.
So he would just started taking them whenever. And then all of a sudden, guess what? Big guess, right?
He has them full time now?
Yep. Both kids are now his. Of course, again, we made sure to call the police, make sure a police report is done, make sure everyone knows that you now are taking care of them because mom just disappeared. Mm-hmm. And, of course, the cops tried looking for her, and then when they did find her and so that, it was like, what? The kids are being taken care of. What do you want? And they're like, okay, we found you, because they actually did find her. They had to find her. Mm-hmm. When they did, and so that was nothing. It's just, they had to make sure that, nothing funky happened, mm-hmm. And there wasn't, but, the cops were like, why you literally abandoned your children, but it was like, okay, whatever. So they just left her. They made a big ass report about it, and then he used all that to go into court, and then he took over 100%, rights of physical and legal stuff too. Mm-hmm. She had zero.
Right. Yeah.
Oh no, that's hard to do.
Yeah. I understand. That's hard to do.
It's almost unheard of, but. She just told the cops, yeah, I don't care. They're fine, aren't they? Yeah, I knew he would take care of them. They're his kids. He can take care of them. Okay. But yeah, and I know two that have had that happen. Just amazing. Mm-hmm. Let's see now. Yeah, so they also do all that. Mom gets the kids when home left them, doing the thankless job, unpaid mountainous work. Today, neither parent is home, so there's no reason the default custodial parent should be mom. So remind me, why would a man marry today? No, really, what's in it for him?
They have valid points, I mean.
Yeah, it wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because there's a lot of people don't understand is that especially back in the day, like when I had my first child, yeah, I couldn't see it. You know, trying to see my son was such a pain because it depended on whether or not she was going to let me.
Right, yeah, and I don't believe that is fair. I mean, like,
Fuck, man. You know, but, you know, and eventually, you know, she just said, too bad. And then when I tried, you know, complaining and going to court in order to force her to, you know, to actually allow me to see my own kid, by the time that we got back into court, which is over a year later, all of a sudden there's a year since I hadn't seen my kid. So now all of a sudden, if I want to see him, I have to pay for supervised visits. It's only going to be for a couple hours, maybe once every 2 weeks.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. And it was, you know, it's not cheap.
No, I know that.
And it was like, you know, and even then, and stuff like that, they're like, well, we can't make her, and we're not going to make her actually show up. Well, what's the point? You're going to make me spend a couple $100 every couple of weeks for what? So that she might not even show up, and then there's nothing I can do anyway. So, you know, yeah. So eventually, you know, everyone has little interesting stories, you know. But, you know, it's just stuff you got to live with, and it's just something you got to acknowledge that or you're basically screwed. So, when I had, you know, my last one, though, I was expecting, you know, the same shit from before. But luckily enough, and so that, you know, things have changed a little bit. So, you know, so that's good. And then she was much happier and so that than my first one. And, you know, so I get to be able to have him and whatever. But, you know, mine's a rare case.
Right.
You know, and even then I'm still paying child support.
Right.
And I have him half the freaking time, and I got half the bills. And I still have to pay child support. Why? Well, because there's, you know, you do know that the front of the court and all them and stuff like that, and the state actually makes money off of men paying child support.
Yep.
It's a lot of money involved, and they don't want to lose that income.
Nope.
But, anyways, and so that little bitterness. You know, your thoughts?
I mean, my thoughts on it is like...
And your personal history and stuff like that. What about, you know, have you had any issues with men not wanting to commit to you?
Yes, I've had men that didn't want to commit to me, and, you know, and I did, you know, I think that's all, like, when I first brought up the marriage thing to people, I mean, it was still early in the conversation, like, I didn't ask them to marry me, but I was just asking them, like, well... How do you feel about marriage, this, that, and the other? I mean, like normal.
Right, you're
like,
filling them out.
Yeah, normal type of questions, you know?
That's normal.
And they gave me all the right answers, but at the same time, they still didn't want to commit to me. So it's like, okay, well...
Well, that's just it and so that, you know, that's just it. Is that it was a general standard rule. Women are the gatekeepers of sex. Mm-hmm. Well, because if you don't say yes, we don't get laid.
Well, yeah.
Duh. But men are the gatekeepers to relationships. Because we have to go, yeah, that's a good idea. Or we go, no, I'm good. And then that's it. That's the only power we got. But, yeah, even from your situations, so that you've experienced and so that, workers, it's been a little rough. You know, from the other side and so that, yeah. You know, I remember and so that, you know, being trained by Disney, you know, within, you know, the romantic movies and whatever, and what we're supposed to be doing, you know,
right.
blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that got all turned on its head. Especially when there's if you go around and you talk to a woman and all of a sudden she just yells at you for how dare you even come on up and talk to me.
Right. Yeah.
You know, it's like, okay, whatever. See you later. You know, you just can't win. And a lot of guys I know so that are not even bothering. One of the biggest things that is also been coming up is there's women complaining that men aren't coming up and even talking to them anymore.
Well, when you
It's not happening.
You know,
especially younger men.
Right. Well, when you like act all, entitled to stuff, and you act all like, walking around like, like your poop smells like roses, and it's, I think that's plays a part in it,
Yeah. I know when it's actually talking about women is that, what do you rate yourself? You know how many women and stuff of that, because you're going to be able to watch them and stuff of that live and just on YouTube, where a bunch of these women are like, oh, I'm a 10. It's like, please, you are far from a 10. But they think that all of a sudden that they're a 10. It was like
why?
Delusion much.
Like, why though? I mean, like, what happened to overinflate their egos like that?
Well, that's just it. Remember some of it, body positivity, and you're a queen. What was it? Because you can see it in a bunch of stuff, however. Where of course women are like, don't go for less. Always go for the best, because there's you're worth the best. Because there's even a statistic now, which is I'm sure accurate, because I actually asked a bunch of kids, kids for me, they're in their 20s, and even a couple of them were in their teens, late high school, because that's when you really get to find out, and almost none of them, or I should say the opposite, almost all of them were virgins.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. In fact, they even cared. In fact, out of like a couple of the 20-year-olds, most of them had never even been on a date.
Wow.
There was 2 of the guys had actually gotten laid. One actually had a current girlfriend. He was, I guess, kind of like the stud guy. Out of that group. One of them is of that, had on and off relationships, but he hadn't had sex in like over a year.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone else and so that, never even had a date.
Wow.
Let alone got laid.
Wow.
Yeah. It's becoming very popular where there's a bunch of guys just aren't getting laid anymore. I mean, there's even whole studies and everything and stuff at work. I had to do a couple of those and so just to blow your brains. Just no way. Because some of this stuff is crazy, and it is. It is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So in this one, so we agree, and so that occurs. Okay, at least some of this and some of this, some foundation. And it's very interesting and so that. So, what are your stories? Yep. Let us know what you guys think. Right? What have you guys been experiencing? Write it down. Put it in the comments, please. Or if you got an interesting story or two, send it to us. Send it to our email and so that. weirdworld2022@gmail.com. I'll have to be able to put the description and everything inside the comment section or whatever. But yeah, that's all it is. weirdworld2022@gmail.com. Like and share, and let us know what you think.
Tell your friends.
Yay! All right, you guys have a good one.
Goodbye.
Till the next one. Bye-bye.